Hello, everybody. Welcome to July. So, I'm going to start a new series this month, and it is going to be Under the Sea. We are going to do a whole bunch of things just with the sea. So, we are going to have fishes and mermaids and seaweed and coral reefs and all kinds of things like that. So, stay with me and you'll get to see that. That'll be every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Okay, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. And I also have a Star Wars class coming up. I just wanted to let you all know about. So if you're interested or know anybody who likes to paint Star Wars or Star Wars, I have a class coming out on Monday. And we will be painting every single one of the Star Wars characters that you see here. And if you want, you could come and join me on that. All right, are we ready to get started? All right, so this is what you're going to need for this class. You need some watercolors. This is what the watercolors look like. This one's a 36 set. You don't have to have a big set like this, but it's one of my favorites. You need a black pen, and this is my favorite pen. It's called a Uniball Signo 207 Bold. And what makes this pen so special is that when it dries, it is permanent. So then you can go back over it with watercolor and stuff and it won't bleed all over the place. So that's one of the things that you'll need. I will have a pencil, and I don't like the eraser on my pencil, so I have something called a kneaded eraser, and that's what this is. A kneaded eraser is rubber and it doesn't make that mess that these always make. So it's one of my favorites. You'll need, I think I'm going to use 2 brushes. I'm not real sure about that. This is a 1/4 inch mop. And it's very, very soft, and it's one of my favorite brushes. And then I have a number 2.0 fine red sable round brush. And I like 2 round brushes. It's one of my favorite sizes. All right, and I will be using some watercolor paper. I will say that you could use normal paper with this, but it makes a big, big difference on what kind of paper that you're using. So watercolor paper is made for water. So it holds up water really, really well. The key here is that you look for 140 pound paper. It doesn't matter what brand or how many sheets or anything, it's 140 pound and you'll have a good time. I like to buy these big palettes or big pads of paper of this, and then I like to cut them in half like this, and that's how I actually do this. So that's what we'll be using. All right, so I also will have a paper towel with me also. All right, is anybody ready to go? Yes? All right, so we are going to do a couple things today. We're working on fish today. So I would like you to start with, here's a pencil and your piece of paper. And there's actually 2 sides to watercolor paper. One side is kind of a smooth finish, and then there's another side that has more of a texture. The right side is supposed to be the textured one that you're supposed to paint on. It really doesn't matter. I've just found that the textured side works a little bit better. All right, so let's start. First, we're going to do a series of at least 4 different types of fish, okay? So we're going to do an angelfish first, and I'm going to put it up here in this right-hand corner. So an angelfish is one of those triangle fish. So we're going to start by making a couple of triangles. I want you to draw really lightly because we are going to want to erase a little bit, all right? So let's make sure everybody can see. Yep. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start with making a triangle, a big triangle. Okay, and then I'm going to make another triangle right in the middle of it, and it's going to be a smaller triangle. So it's already starting to look like a fish, but that's 2 of them. 2 triangles. Now, the key is what you do around this that makes your fish. So one of the things that I like to do is, like, you're going to make a little lip area for the little fish, and then it actually dips in and it dips out, and then it goes past the triangle. You see that? So it's a little bit of a swoosh and down, and we're going to do that same thing down here at the bottom. Now, if you have trouble doing that, you could always move this, and you could do it the opposite way. You see how that is? Now, I could go ahead and start erasing if I wanted to. So I'm going to erase that line, and I'm going to erase that line. What I've learned about little starfishes is that they both have one in the top and the bottom right there, okay? And then we've got to do a swoosh down here at the bottom. So this side comes in, and it kind of connects down here to this the fin at the bottom, all right? And then this one at the bottom here actually comes up and then goes right into that little area where the little tail is, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and erase. I don't need that line anymore. Now, you see why we draw really lightly? That's the key. Okay, so here we go. Next, let's draw the actual bottom fin area, right? The actual tail. So the tail actually mimics this whole little area. It has these little squiggle things at the end. So we're gonna go like that and like that. It's almost the same shape. It's repeating. All right, and then instead of connecting it back here, it's actually connected towards where we actually had our small one right here. So I'm just going to come down and I'm going to add that like that. And then they have this little area here where the fin kind of has these wrinkles, I guess I should say. Now, a starfish also has these tentacles. And so we're going to start down here, and we're just going to go down and down. And what's going to happen is we will deal with those with paint. So all we need to make this final is to do a little eyeball. Now, something that you should know is that a lot of starfish have those zebra tiger stuff, right? So I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to do some triangles down. And I'm going to do them opposite on the bottom here. All right. And when we go to paint, we can do all kinds of fun stuff with that. So there's my angelfish. How's that for everybody? Everybody see that? All right. Are we ready to move on? Yeah. Next, we're going to do a seahorse. Now, I've been looking at these seahorses. Let me tell you, I don't understand why they're called horses. They kind of look like dragons to me, or they look like lizards and crocodiles and stuff. So, I don't know. But we're going to go with seahorse. So, I'm going to just, see, I've got my hands here, and I'm going to just go, okay. So, I want my seahorse to be in this area right in here, okay? So, seahorses have three main areas. One is a little head. So I'm going to draw a little round oval. It's more horizontal this time than a round circle. Okay. Then I'm going to draw the tummy, the actual bottom half of it. And I'm going to come here, and you see how I am going around and around and around to get the shape that I want. We're going to work with that, okay? And then we got to do the fun tail. So the fun tail of an actual is that it comes down and it makes a curlicue. See that? It's a C curlicue, and it hooks on to this round one. All right. Then what we've got to do is we're going to combine some things. Well, let's get the actual horn area in here, I guess. So you see how I made that little lip here? We're going to do the same thing for this, except this one's going to be a little bit taller, longer, I mean. So we're going to come out, and we're making a little bit of a C here, and we're going to make a little bit of a C here. And I'm going to just make a little zero right there at the end of that horn, right? Because that's the horn. It's his little mouth. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to work on his head. So what I have found is that the head kind of comes up, and it's flatter than we think, but it comes to a kind of a point, like a triangle on top of that head there. And then this area here actually comes down, and it's a squiggle line all the way down because he's got this bony exterior, right? So that's what this is. Now let's work on the underside of his belly. So one of the things I've noticed is that it comes really far in right here where his neck is. So I'm going to come in, and I'm making a U, and then I'm coming back out. You see how I'm making little short strokes, and I'm kind of finding one of my lines, and that's how I'm finding where I'm going to put these. All right. Now, they have a little fin down here towards the back. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of a triangle area, right, like that, with those little wrinkles in it. Now we can start erasing some of our things. Now, here we go. I'm going to just erase inside here. We will start adding little details to our seahorses and our stuff when we start painting. We don't have to do too much to it while we're drawing. I am going to do a little eyeball though. So there is that. Now, some seahorses have this little groove up here at the top. I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and put it up there. All right, so there's our two seahorses and our fish. Now let's do a starfish. So I'm going to do this, let's see, we're gonna start in the center of the starfish with a little circle, okay? Then I'm gonna draw a straight line and a straight line, okay? And then from there, I'm gonna go out just like that, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start connecting these. One of the things that I think I'm gonna do first is on the tips of each one of these, I'm gonna add little C's. Next, I've noticed that they have some starfish have really big middles, and some are really skinny. So I'm going to do a big one here, I think. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two lines with a big C. And I'm going to just rotate my piece of paper, and I'm going to do the same. I can always keep making it down if I want. So see, I move that, and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say that one goes to here. This one's going to go to here. You want to make sure that it's rounded. Most starfishes are not like they don't have that many straight lines. They're all curved. They're organic. All right, you see how I'm rotating my piece of paper? And so there's my starfish. I'm gonna leave it just like it is. I'm gonna use these lines when I actually go to paint. So I'm just gonna leave that the way it is. Now we're gonna do one more thing, which is a jellyfish. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Jellyfish are so fun to paint with watercolor, people. Oh my goodness. So it's going to be behind everybody else. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just have, do you see how I'm ghosting? This is what I'm doing. I am sort of coming out here with my pencil, and now I've got that right there like that. Now a jellyfish puts all of its tentacles like in this little area here. It doesn't come way out here. A jellyfish also kind of has like a bean structure. So do you see I put those 2 dots and then I made a little hump right in there. And that's going to be part of my jellyfish. We're going to deal, and then we've got the tentacles. Right? So there's one. We're going to just go ahead and make that one go right there. It's going to be behind the starfish. Then I'm going to make a few out like that. Okay. And I'm going to let that be our drawing for the day. Okay. So next, all we've got to do is paint this thing. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Are we still with me? Okay, that sounds wonderful. All right, let's start painting. So what I've got for my paint here is that I'm going to move this up. Got a paper towel down here. I have also my paint. Okay, I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to start with my 1/4 inch round brush here, or my mop. And I've got some water next to me, okay? So one of the things that I do is I'm going to pull all that close. Let's see if you can all fit in here. That'll work. My water's a little dirty. That's going to be okay, though. All right, so one of the things, you know what? I think I'm going to just go straight to the small brush. Okay, so I've got my number 2 brush, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with my, jellyfish first. I'm going to paint the whole thing with water. That's why I was going to start with a big brush. I knew there was a reason. So I'm coming in here, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing with water. Now, we know my water is a little dirty because you can see that. What I'm going to start with is I'm going to take my little paintbrush now, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make it a blue one. And I'm going to bring it into that water, and I'm going to just paint around the edges. And that's all I'm going to do. You see how I'm dropping a dot in here, and I'm just letting it run. And I'm going to do a whole lot down here towards the bottom. Okay? And I've picked up another little blue right here. It's a darker blue for this bottom half. And I'm just going to put it right there towards the bottom. And you see how when I have a lot of water there, it's painting for me. That is what's so great about watercolor and painting. So this technique is called wet on wet. All right. So I'm going to leave that. Now, if you have a hard line like I do, see that hard line? I'm going to take some water, and I'm just going to put some water in here and see what happens. If I can't get it to go towards the center just a little bit. All right, we're going to leave that alone for a little bit. I'm not going to do the tentacles yet. Well, no, let's do it. Let's do at least a few. So I've got some paint on my brush, and I'm going to start here on this one. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm just drawing on my lines. And you see how I ran out of paint? And I had to go back and get some more. That's fine. I'm going to start here. And it gets lighter as we go. And that's sort of where we're going. We want to do that. We want to get lighter. And you see how that one's nice and dark? Do you also see how I am starting up here and it's making that little area even darker as I go along? All right, I'm gonna let that rest. What do I mean by resting? I mean, I'm just gonna let it dry for a little bit and we're gonna move on to another object. So I'm gonna start down here with my starfish. Now, starfishes, I've seen it blue, I've seen gray, I've seen orange. I think I'm gonna go a little bit more orangey. So I have a gold color that I'm gonna do here. That's what this color right here, these two are gold for me. And I'm gonna just pull some gold in and I'm gonna just go ahead and paint my starfish with it. So I get some water on my brush and I'm just putting it in. Now, did you notice that I didn't start with a wet, piece of paper this time. So I have a little bit more control over my paint this time because it's not so wet. And do you see how I'm having to get more paint each time I do this because it's not bleeding as well. I'm trying to stay, if my jellyfish got into my starfish, I'm trying to stay away from it. So I don't want those two things to bleed. So I'm being real careful. All right, so that's my starfish. All right, now I'm gonna move to my seahorse. Now, I've seen all kinds of different colors for seahorses. And believe it or not, I'm gonna go hot pink. Yeah, hot pink. I know, I'm kind of surprised at myself too. So I have a hot pink, hot red kind of color. And I'm gonna just paint the whole thing that color. And I don't have a whole lot of water on my brush. I'm just putting down a layer. Now, watercolors are just a bunch of layers. That's what is so great about them. Is that you can make them light by not touching them again, right? Like you can say, okay, I'm done. Or you can say, I need more color and just add when it dries. All right, so that's all I'm doing to that. I'm just laying down color for this, all right? And that's all I'm doing. And now I'm gonna go over here to my angel fish. My angel tiger fish. Maybe it's gonna be called tiger fish. I don't know. What do y'all think? So that means if it's a tiger fish, I'm going to make it more of that gold color. I think I'm gonna start with the same color that I did right there, okay? So here I go, and I'm gonna paint all of it that color. So I had a lot on my brush there, color-wise, and then I went into my water, and I'm moving the water down. So I haven't even gone back for more paint yet. I'm still just playing with the paint that I just put on my palette. All right, so I'm coming in and I'm gonna get me some more. And I'm gonna just add a little bit more water. Now, I am not drenching it. I'm only just a little bit. I want this paint to dry fast. I don't want it to dry slow. So that's why I'm using water, but I'm not using a whole lot of water. Watercolor takes practice, and that's what you'll have, right? Like when you do this, you'll practice all of the watercolor in here. How much water, how much color. Okay, I'm leaving that the way it is at the moment, okay? Did you notice I covered up my eyes? And did you notice that I just did one layer for everybody right now? So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna come back. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna touch this. He's damp, but he's not soaking wet, so that's good. And a jellyfish, because it's clear, sometimes has different colors in it. So I'm actually going to sit here and I'm going to get me a little bit of a pink color. And I'm going to just add a little bit of a pink in here. And I'm going to add some water in here. And you see how that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to do anything else to that jellyfish, except for maybe the tentacles now. So my tentacles, I do think I'm going to go back to some blue, but I'm going to go back to a different blue. So this one is more of a periwinkle. And I'm going to come back on just this area, and I'm only going to touch it in places. So you see how I'm only doing it, I'm picking and choosing a little area. I'm not coming in and doing the whole line. I'm trying to make it with some variations. Sometimes it's thicker and sometimes it's wetter. Now, with that same color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some back behind. You see how I just added that and that made it look more real. And it's not as dark as that first one that we did. All right, I'm going to leave that the way it is. Now I'm going to go over here to my starfish. So one of the things that I've learned about starfishes is they have these little white things on them. So I want to paint the edges to make this middle part more lighter, okay? So I'm going to come in here with a darker gold color. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do the edges of this. I'm kind of outlining it. And that's all I'm doing, is I'm outlining this whole area for this starfish. Now, it could look a little too outliney, but how do we blend it? Does anyone know? Well, we add water to the edge, right? So here we go. I'm going to take this. And where I have a big line, see I have a really big line right here, I'm going to add some water to my brush and see if I can't push it around. You see how I'm just taking some water in and I'm just moving it towards the center. But I'm not going all the way to the center, just this little bit there. All right, and that is layer number 2 for my starfish. Now I'm going to move to my seahorse. So I did it with a nice red this time. I'm going to go with real pink this time. So I'm going with a real pink, like this kind of pink next. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I get some pink on my brush. And I'm going to do about the same thing as I did with the starfish, is I'm going to do just the edges. And I'm just going to come in here and add a little bit of pink to these tops. And I'm just going to add it to one side of this, even his little fin here, and even down here on his tail. And you see, I'm not really being real neat about it. I'm just adding a few little colors to it. I'm going to do a little bit on his tummy and a little bit underneath his chin there. And I'm going to let that go. Now, if that's really too hard for you, you're going to add some water, pull it up, and you see how that helps that look a little bit less liney. So I'm now moving to my tiger. So he is he's mostly dry. So one of the things I'm going to do for him is I'm going to, I'm going to do some black. So I have some black on my brush. You got to make sure it's completely dry before you do this. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to just add it to these triangles, right? Because tigers are yellow, orange, and black. And I'm going to just do it. Yeah, does anybody see that I forgot to do those tentacles? I'll do that in just a minute. So I'm going to get me some black in here. Now, one of the things I kind of like is I want them to bleed just a little bit. So I'm putting some water next to them so it softens them up. Did y'all see that? Softens that up. And there we go. Now, I'm going to go back and do my tentacles. So I'm going to get me some of that gold color. And that's about all I'm going to do. Okay? He's got a black eye. I'm going to go ahead and add that to him. I might go ahead and do that to my... There you go. He looks right now, doesn't he? Okay, nice. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my jellyfish. I might add, I'm going to take a little bit more blue and add it to just the sides. Maybe a little bit more down here. But I'm not going to touch it anymore. I could touch, I think I'm going to make a little bit darker on a few places here. I picked a different blue this time, and it's kind of a turquoisey blue, and I'm just adding it in spots. You see that? I'm not doing all of them. Just adding it because they're see-through, right? So they're going to have all kinds of different colors in this area. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to my starfish, and on my starfish I'm going to add another layer to the corners of this. So this time I'm going to go straight orange. So I'm getting me some orange on my brush here, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to add just into these middle areas here some major orange. You see that? In this area here. And when I do my orange, makes it brighter, and each time you add more color, you're adding another layer, which is making it darker or brighter depending on the color that you have. Now you see I'm adding a little bit of white or water to that because I want, but I'm going to try to keep that area as light as possible, so I'm not going to touch it. I am going to make it a little bit darker even more, so I'm actually going to go with brown. So I got a red brown here, and I'm going to just come in to the edge. And you see how when I add this brown to this, how it's starting to pop just a little bit, right? And I'm just adding a little bit of pop in here. One of the things I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm gonna start saying, okay, so the sunlight is coming from top to bottom, right? So that means all of this under stuff is gonna be, so that means that this side is gonna be a little bit darker than all of that top part. So I'm going to keep on adding a little bit more dark color here. And you see, I'm only adding it on this triangle that we had. That's why I'm leaving that those lines there. I kept them on purpose. Coming back to my sea horse, I'm going to go back to a darker pink now. And I'm going to come over to add more to his belly. And I'm going to add a little bit more. It's just, this time I'm just adding little details. I'm kind of, you know how a seahorse has all of those, what's the word for it? ridges. I'm now adding little ridges into this. And I'm gonna, when you get to his stomach and you're doing it, make sure you make those ridges round. Because if you make them straight, he's gonna look really flat. You see, I made that like those little ridges rounded, and that's helping. Now, I think I am gonna make his little lips a little bit brighter here. Yeah, that's better. Okay. I will say that, so this is gonna be the underneath, so he needs to be a little bit darker right in there. But see, the light would be hitting him right there, so I'm gonna let that sit there for a little bit. Okay, we're gonna now move to my tiger fish. Tiger fish, I'm gonna come in with my gold color, and I'm gonna do a little bit of outline because we did not do that before we added our, and I'm just adding it into these areas. And I can even add stripes coming down if I want. If I don't, I can add water to those stripes, and you see how that blended that together. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got some at the bottom, and I'm being real careful to stay away from the black. I'll do the black by itself. And I'm going to add that right in here. I am doing that tentacle right there, that long tail. So now I'm going to back over here on his tail. I'm going to come in, add a little bit more of that dark color all the way around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those wrinkles, right? Do you see how I just added lines in here to show that that is his tail, and it's kind of got those ridges on it. Now, I'm going to stay with what I've got here, and I'm going to go back to black. And I'm going to add it to the tops. You see, I've added it to the top. Now I'm going to go get some water, and I'm going to just take some water, and I'm going to just push it down. Same thing over here. Taking some water, and I'm just pushing it down. Now, remember I said that the bottom would be darker than the top. So here we can add even more black. We can go up higher with that black. Do you see how I'm not doing the whole thing black all over again? This is how I am shading lighter and lighter and lighter, right? Each time I add a layer, it gets darker and darker and darker. So I am liking what I've got here on my fish. I'm going to add some orange to him though, because he is tigerish, right? So I'm going to just add a little bit of orange in here, up towards the top of him. I'm going to stay away from my my black though, okay? All right, I like that. That's working. Now, anybody feeling like this is a little boring yet? Yeah? I'll get there, I promise. Okay, I'm going to go back to, I'm leaving this alone. I like that where it is. It's my seahorse that's sort of weird. So I'm now going to add, I'm going to go back to maybe a little red to my pink. I'm not sure. Let's see what happens here. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to just do some dots along his knobby little back, right? He's got some knobs back there. All right, and it actually continues all the way down into his back. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go just a few right there on his tail. But another thing that I'm going to do from those knobs, just a few, not all of them, I'm just going a little horizontal here and adding, see what it looks like as an actual spine. Another thing that the seahorse has is that it actually has some things that go up and down too. So I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to do, and I did that. I'm repeating the shape. Now I lost my pretty white stuff, so how do you erase? What you can do to erase is you get some water on your brush, you add it to the area, then you go to your paper towel and you wipe it off so it's almost dry, and you see I'm using my paintbrush to lightly lift that color up. This doesn't always work. Depends on your paper and what you're doing it with, how dry it is, that kind of thing. Okay, I like that. So one of the things that I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some actual water. So how do you add water? I'm going to sit here and add some big old drops, some bubbles, and it's going to be random. And they're not all going to be bright, and they're not all going to be the same size. And all right, so now I have those in here. One of the things that I can do now is I can come in with a darker color on some of these and add just a dot. You see how it makes it a little bit darker on one side, and it makes it look like it's three-dimensional, right? Just like my jellyfish, kind of. And now I'm just going to add some little blue dots. I'm not even going into, I'm just coming into my water. And if I need some more, I'm coming into a bubble and I'm stealing from it. Let's just say I'm borrowing. How about that? We don't need to steal, right? Okay. Nice. All right. So, guess what my favorite step is? Anybody know? Anybody know? Yes. My favorite step is the pen. Okay, I got to make sure everything's dry, so I'm going to touch this. He's still wet. My little seahorse is wet, but he is, and I'm going to hit it real quick. So this is called a Heated Tool by Ranger, and you can buy it at Michael's. So I'm going to come in, and I'm just hitting it real fast with some heat. It shouldn't take long. And yeah, just like that, it's dry. I'm now going to take my pen work. So again, this is the Uniball Signo Bold 207. So one of the things I like to do is, one, I don't make everything perfect. Y'all see that? I also do a real scribbly line. And even with some of these, I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm only doing some of them to give it an indication that there is something there. I'm going to come in here and I'm adding to my starfish. I am doing it messy on purpose because here's the thing I found out about it. If you, I'm adding some circles. Remember, a starfish has those little sucker thingies on their pod things. I guess that's what they're called. I don't know. And I'm going to add a little bit of ridges in here. But I'm being messy on purpose because it's looking like I'm doing it on purpose. If I do it perfect like this and then I mess up and I try to do it again, that looks weird. So if I do all of them just crazy like, it looks like I did it on purpose instead of Now, my seahorse is one of the places that I can start adding a little bit more detail. Remember I said he has some things that do this and like this, and then he has these things that go on his, and I'm adding lines, but I'm curving those lines. I'm not doing straight little lines. So I'm adding texture to my seahorse. You see that? And I'm also adding a few little twisty twos. Twisty twos. Y'all know what that is? My little squiggles. So I love to do squiggles. It adds pizzazz. You gotta have pizzazz. All right, so my tiger. And you see, I'm not even doing it like the right line sometimes. I'm making my own lines with this pen. That's okay, because one, I want you to be free enough and confident enough that I did this on purpose, so this doesn't look weird, right? Like, I want you to know I did this, and that's what I'm doing with that. Now, do you see how when I'm adding all of these scribbles, how this is starting to look more and more arty and more with more details? So this, what I'm doing down here is called cross hatching. So I'm doing little straight little lines, little ones, and do you see how it's making that look like it's actually darker in that spot? I can do that same thing down here on the belly, and I did the same thing down here on my tiger fish. And you know, do I do any on this? Let's see. I guess I am, since I did it. I'm not doing the whole circle. I'm only doing a little bit of the circle. I could even do clear ones, right? I could even do curlicues. All right, and I think that is my Under the Sea. What do y'all think? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Next week, same time, same place, I think we are doing, oh dear, fishes, seashells. We're doing seashells next week. But I got mermaids coming at the end of the month. All right, you need to sign your work. I always sign my work by the actual object that I'm painting. And, you know, I'm thinking about this out loud now. I kind of want to add a little bit of a wash. So you all don't have to do this. I'm waiting for hopefully my ink is dry. I'm going to come and get me some blue on my brush. And I'm coming in, and it's a different blue. And you see how I'm adding just a little bit in here to make it look like it's water. Now, I did this afterwards. You could do this before you do the pen, but make sure it's dry before you do this and before you do your pen work too. Ah, I like that better. Do y'all like that better? Me too. Makes it look like it's in water. Blue water. We're in the Caribbean. I like to be in the Caribbean. Okay, and you see how I also didn't get really close to my objects. I stayed around it. Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the seahorses and the fishes. I'll see you next week. Know that I have a new class coming, a Star Wars class. You can get more information about it on my website or in my feed. And it is a 4-week class, ages 9 and up. And you can learn to paint Baby Yoda. All right, bye guys. Have fun.